In the last video, you made the bold claim that God has, from the beginning, worked through some sort of an organization when dealing with mankind. So, are you now going to try to tell me that Adam and Eve was God's organization, or, perhaps, that Noah was also God's organization?
Before I start to answer that, can you tell me what your view is of the word organization?
Well, I suppose, if I was to think about it, it would refer to, say, a company usually for commercial gain. I suppose it could refer to a charity, or a club as well.
I think you are on the right track there. How about we see what a dictionary has to say? I will use the internet. Let's see. Organization definition. What does this first one say? An organized group of people with a particular purpose. A social unit of people that is structured and managed to meet a need or to pursue collective goals. A group of people who work together in an organized way for a shared purpose.
Okay, I understand that. How does that apply to Adam and Eve being an organization? There was, after all, only two of them.
The definitions we just read had something in common. A group of people with a shared purpose or goal. Let's see what the shared purpose or goal was that Adam and Eve had. Here at Genesis 1 verse 28 as read from the Authorized King James Bible.
And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it.
This may not seem much, but it was organization. They were not just placed on earth and left to see what would happen. God had given Adam and Eve an assignment, a common purpose or goal. That collective purpose was, for Adam and Eve to fill the earth with offspring and to subdue it. At the time of their creation, only a small part of the earth was evidently classed as a garden-like home or paradise. So, as the human family grew, they would spread out and transform the rest of the land into what could be called a garden-like home. They had a collective purpose. God communicated with them. That was a joint venture. It was not only the shared purpose or goal of Adam and Eve, it was also God's purpose for the earth. Jehovah was the one in charge. At Genesis 2 verses 16 and 17 we read how Jehovah had given them only one, do not. That showed that he alone had the right to say what was right, and what was not. Now Adam and Eve decided not to follow God, and were enticed to follow one of God's heavenly sons that rebelled. At that point, they decided that they no longer wanted to do things God's way, but their own way. They wanted the right to rule themselves. God's purpose for the earth has never changed, but the organization he started to use had. If we go back to the definitions of the word organization, the obedient Adam and Eve under God's direction were a structured group of people with a common purpose. So, yes, Adam and Eve were God's first earthly organization.
Why didn't God just decide to start again, and do away with Adam and Eve and Satan, at that time? He had the power to do so, and you have just told me that he had the right to set the laws.
The first point to remember is that God is a God of love. In his love for all his intelligent creations, including Adam and Eve, and all the different heavenly spirit creatures, they were given free will. He did not want any of them to serve him like robots. He loved his earthly creation and wanted to see his plan for the earth come to fruition. In Genesis 3 verse 15 we find the first messianic prophecy. Here, for the first time we learn that God is going to raise up a special seed to deal with Satan and rectify the damage he had caused. Satan had also raised a very important question that needed to be answered once and for all time.
What was that?
All of God's intelligent creatures, that is, Adam and Eve, and all heavenly angels were created with free choice, or free will. Using Adam and Eve, he posed the question before all the other spirit creatures. Does God have the right to be the ultimate ruler of everything? Now, just think about this. If God had decided to start again, the challenging question would be left unanswered, it would not have settled. Is it possible that at some future time, there would be another rebellion by some heavenly, or earthly creature wanting their own independence? That question would hang over all creation without a satisfactory answer. By not doing away with the rebellion, and allowing a measure of time to pass, all creation can see if life is better under their own devices away from the guidelines of our Creator.
Your argument has some merit, but you have not convinced me.
That's okay. I am not trying to convince you, or win an argument. I would like you to just understand how, and why, we understand the Bible the way we do. The basic account of Adam and Eve has a big bearing on what the Bible teaches about the immortal soul, hell, why we grow old and die, just why Jesus had to be a corresponding ransom for all mankind, and what God's purpose is for the earth. Those subjects, however, are for another occasion. Let's just stay on the topic of God, in the past using mere humans as his earthly part of his universal organization.
Now what? Noah? Are you going to try to tell me that Noah was an organization? We are only ever told about him. One person. Was not Noah the only righteous or God-fearing one? We are not told a thing about his family, so it would appear that only Noah was chosen by God.
Let's look at what we know about those times from what the account in Genesis chapter 6 tells us. Starting in verse 5. This is from the 2013 New World Translation.
Consequently, Jehovah saw that man's wickedness was great on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only bad all the time.
The world of mankind had become a very unpleasant and unsafe place to be. Evidently because of the hybrid offspring of materialized spirit creatures and women. In verse 8 we read,
But Noah found favor in the eyes of Jehovah. Noah was a righteous man. He proved himself faultless among his contemporaries. Noah walked with the true God. In time Noah became father to 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. After that God said to Noah, I have decided to put an end to all flesh, because the earth is full of violence on account of them, so I am bringing them to ruin together with the earth, and I am establishing my covenant with you, and you must go into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And Noah did according to all that God had commanded him. He did just so.
In 2 Peter, chapter 2, verse 5, we are told that Noah was a preacher of righteousness. The Greek word here for preacher, according to Strong's Greek lexicon, means a herald, that is of divine truth. What do you think that tells us?
I would suppose that is telling us that as a righteous person, Noah probably would have warned people of the judgment to come.
I would agree with that assumption. Now, if Noah had warned people and they had listened to Noah, I would also assume that others would have done something about building a version of the ark for their own families. When the flood came upon them, it was as if they did not know it was happening. Matthew chapter 24 verse 39 says, And they did not know until the flood came and swept them all away. What the account of Noah does tell us, is that God had organized for Noah, and his family, to be safe. It then took great organization on the part of Noah and his family to accomplish the work that was set before them. Therefore, the account of Noah teaches us that God used a simple, non-complex, form of human organization to accomplish his will to preserve life on earth after it had been cleansed.